CJ.
Honorable Canada Network Center. A moment ago, the Honorable Minister of Finance was back on the screen, and we understand the connection is much clearer. So, Honorable Minister, let's continue to listen to your explanation as to what the Finance Act 2020 seeks to achieve in the main. And in responding to that, you may also wish to speak on this. There is no part of a legislation that is not useful. But from the government's point of view, what are the potential game changers in terms of strengthening the economy against whatever impact there might be of coronavirus, which is still lingering, and indeed other uncertainties that lie out there in the external environment and even the domestic environment?
Well, thank you very much. Apologies, my connectivity is poor and actually went off. I was saying that the Finance Act is designed with 5 thematic areas in mind. One is enacting counter-cyclical measures, and in that regard, we created a legal framework that is helping us to respond adequately to the coronavirus crisis. Also, it allows us to permit companies and individuals that have donated towards the pandemic to recover their donation in the form of tax relief. We also have designed the bill with a tax and fiscal responsibility view. That is, we had to amend a couple of fiscal legislations to enhance our implementation of tax reforms. And also, we have then been able to make provisions to amend the Fiscal Responsibility Act, to amend the Procurement Act, to also enhance the ease of doing business so that the businesses in the country will have tax relief to enable them plow back the taxes that they will have paid into their businesses to grow and also to employ people. We have been able to also make a provision to allow for fiscal relief for mass transit. This is very important. We were looking for how to provide fiscal stimulus to Nigerians, a stimulus package that will impact a large proportion of people. If you look at what is happening now, we have inflation running on an incremental basis, on a month-to-month basis. Within that inflation, if you decouple it, the largest component contributor to inflation is food inflation. And what drives food inflation? The largest component of it is transport. So we were looking at how do we make a provision that enables the reduction in the cost of transportation, which will have the consequences of reducing food inflation and providing relief to every Nigerian. So we had to take this very difficult decision about reducing the levies within the transport sector. We're very much aware that this reduction will affect the investors in the transport sector, but this is a fiscal stimulus. That is what government does when you have a crisis, to provide relief to the larger proportion of the population. We have met under the chairmanship of His Excellency the Vice President with the investors within the sector, and we're supposed to have follow-up meetings to look at how we can mitigate the impact of this policy decision, this fiscal policy decision on their businesses. For example, we were looking at how government, at least at the federal level, can make a commitment in line with its Buy Nigeria policy to buy made in Nigeria vehicles, so that there is offtake of these vehicles that is produced by these investors within the sector. And also to remind Nigerians that our assessment is the total number of vehicles that is brought into or required to be brought into Nigeria every year is about 750,000. The combined capacity today of the 14 assembling plants in Nigeria is about 50,000 vehicles in a year. So there's a wide gap. And it means also that government can actually uptake these vehicles. We will also be encouraging the states and the local governments to buy this made in Nigeria vehicles. We feel if we do that, the concerns of the industry should have been adequately addressed. But then again, we will be engaging them to find how we can provide relief. But our target is not to harm the industry. No, it is to provide the greatest possible relief to taxpayers, to Nigerians, to ease the difficulties that is caused by transport that has the consequences on not only food but on several aspects of the day-to-day lives of Nigerians.
All right, indeed. Let's remain with you, Honorable Minister. Actually, the 5 thematic areas that you have mentioned have a wide coverage of concerns, which, if, of course, adequately implemented, will actually turn the economy around and, of course, ensure that all you have stated are going to be achieved within the next 1 year. But I want to ask this question because when it comes to implementation, we usually have hiccups here and there, well, of course, going by what has happened in the past. Now, what are the assurances that there are strategies being put in place to ensure that these thematic areas you've mentioned are going to be adequately implemented to ensure result-oriented budget implementation 2021?
So the revenue collection authorities, the FRS, the customs, and other revenue collecting agencies are improving on their efficiency. And the proof of this improvement is in the performance of these revenue collecting agencies, even in the most difficult times we have ever seen in our country. The IRS, FRS, for example, reports a revenue performance of about 98%. The efficiency of the tax collecting agencies has improved. A number of their processes are automated, removing manual processes that causes difficulties for people. We've also learned from the experience of the implementation of the 2019 Finance Act, where VAT was increased, and the structures to implement the increase in the VAT was not put in place before the act was passed into law. So there's improvement which is on incremental basis that has been going on. We're confident that these authorities that have this responsibility to implement the provisions of this act are poised and ready to hit the ground running and do the implementation, because the bill was designed together with them. It's not just by the Ministry of Finance. It's a broad-based group of stakeholders, including professionals, tax practitioners. We got the 5 big firms in the country supporting us. We got industry. We got different stakeholders, including civil society and several ministries, departments, and agencies that have key roles to play in designing the bill. So it's not a bill that is designed by a few people in the Ministry of Finance. It went through a large number of broad-based consultations. We had large meetings and got inputs and had to make adjustments back and forth before we submitted to the National Assembly. And then at the National Assembly, they also had their public hearing. Of course, when you submit a bill from the executive, when it comes out, it comes out with some changes. Not exactly what goes in comes out. But we're happy with the outcome all the same.
Well, just to seek further explanation, what are the significant changes by way of amendment that the Finance Act 2020 has made to, 1, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, and 2, the Public Procurement Act?
Well, in terms of the